whatever the motivation. Joining our panel to talk about it is Jeffrey Goldberg, columnist for Bloomberg View, and also he writes for The Atlantic. So why take on this American exceptionalism thing? I gotta believe it's because he knew it would bother not just President Obama, but us, the people.
Look, it's not fair to say that his only policy is to put his finger in our eye all the time. He has some deeper strategic. But yeah, I mean, look.
It's a policy.
Look, Russia's weak. Russia lost. I mean, Russia's the successor state to the Soviet Union, which lost. I mean, their policy is in many ways a resentment-based policy. And so, you know, if Obama embraces exceptionalism, he's going to attack exceptionalism. If Obama denied exceptionalism, maybe do the opposite. I mean, you cannot underestimate the role of resentment and humiliation in this relationship.
Are we exceptional?
Yeah, we're exceptional.
You know, actually,
We're great.
The truth of the matter is that I was surprised.
I mean, we defeated fascism and communism in a single century. That's pretty exceptional.
Pew actually polls on this. The American people is the greatest country in the world, or one of the greatest countries in the world, or nothing. And it's under 50% who say the greatest country in the world. It's like 48%. 42% say one of the greatest countries in the world. It's actually not as widespread a belief as I thought that we are this shining beacon on a hill.
I mean, the poll numbers have probably gone down. But don't you think this about the president himself? I mean, that whole point about exceptionalism, and we've all parsed this op-ed, came after a point where he said, you know, the president and I have developed a relationship of trust.
I think it was present tense, developing.
Developing, okay, that's, okay.
And now I will ruin it by sticking my finger in
now I'm going to say that he thinks you're so exceptional, but by the way, you're not, and he's not. I mean, the implication is,
right,
don't give me this, you're better than we are, President Obama, and don't ever say that.
Right. Look, again, don't forget, I mean, step back in history. They lost. He was a KGB agent who was trained his whole life to fight America. He was raised to believe that his system was superior. It turned out not to be superior. That's what Syria is. Syria is a proxy for this in some ways. I mean, what Syria is Syria was in the Soviet sphere of influence for a long time. Russia believed that it inherited Syria as part of its diminished sphere of influence. Having America attack Syria would be a humiliating event for Russia because it can't defend its client state of many decades. There's some serious currents of resentment and feelings of weakness and this lashing out.
This is sort of, I mean, mini Cold War mentality. It's the proxy that's what that was all about.
We're in the 80s in some ways.
But if the U.S. is this divided over Syria, what lesson do you think Russia draws about how we'd react with Iran?
Well, what Russia thinks, you know, this is the thing. I mean, to say this in President Obama's credit, the only reason Vladimir Putin came up with this possibly fake solution to a real problem is because he must have had enough of a sense that Obama might be, from his perspective, crazy enough to go do this. And so, I mean, we are here. Well, I mean, crazy, bold, strong, whatever he.
Perspective, he said, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously, these things have developed because President Obama thought and suggested to the world that I'm going to go use force.
You've spent time with President Obama. I mean, you know him. You have a sense. He studied history. He knows that Bush said, I looked into Putin's eyes and saw his soul, and then was proven wrong. So,
and Obama
what do you
saw the bored kid in the back of the classroom, right, or whatever
right.
it was.
Obama, the president knows that Putin can pull the wool over his eyes and doesn't want to be fooled. What do you think's going on here in his head?
I think the president would much rather not deal with any of this at all. That's what I think. I think we're here where we are in part because the president, not for wrong or terrible reasons, the president spent the last 2 years avoiding this subject, hoping that Syria would just go. Look, he's a domestic policy president anyway. And then he looks at impossible problems in the Middle East, which is where hope goes to die, and says, I can't get involved in this. That inattention over the last 2 years have brought us to this place. But on the Iran piece, it's very, very interesting, and I think people should be cautious about this. Not you. You're very cautious and responsible. But other people.
Thank you, sir.
No.
Gloria.
The president has said very, very clearly there are only two issues that matter for him from a national security perspective in the Middle East. They're first tier problems, right? One is the defeat of al-Qaeda, and the second is prevent Iran from crossing the nuclear threshold, from gaining a nuclear weapon. Syria is a second-tier problem for him. It's now a humanitarian problem, a chemical
But
weapons
it's
problem.
become a big proxy problem for
It's
him
become a
now.
proxy problem, but I don't think it's correct, and this is something that I think the Israelis and the Arabs both misunderstand. I don't think it's correct to say, well, because he's hesitating on this, because he's allowing Putin, or it seems he's allowing Putin to get the better of him on this Syria question, means that Iran is going to turn out to be the same thing. Because he has made it very clear for years now that that is a core national security interest of the United States.
Your Twitter war with senior administration
I
officials?
wouldn't call it a Twitter war.
What
I would
happened?
call it-
The president.
I mean, by the standards of Twitter, it was a love affair.
No, but it was written about. It was noticed because you have regard. People have regard for you, rather. In your view, you were tweeting about the president's speech, and some members of the president's senior staff responded to your tweets, taking issue with them to a degree.
Right.
Which is a high honor.
Well, I'm
by the
happy
way,
to accept it.
they didn't say that their Twitter accounts were hacked. Just for the
Right.
record.
No. I mean, the substantive exchange. I tweeted. I can't believe that I'm talking about a substantive Twitter exchange. But
Me neither.
Well, there you go.
She doesn't even tweet.
Don't even
Anyway.
do it.
We'll work on that. We'll work on that next, in the next hour. But what I tweeted was, over the last 2 years, the American goal has shifted. It used to be to end the regime, to bring about the end of this regime, and now it is, and there it is. We can read it. We just want to take away one of his weapon systems. So our goals have diminished, and Ben Rhodes, Deputy National Security Advisor, guy who writes a lot of the president's speeches, among other duties, said, it remains, an orderly political transition remains a goal of the Obama administration.
Right. U.S. position remains Assad leaving power is part of a political process, but we must also act to specifically remove chemical weapon threat.
Right. And what I said in response to that was, it's fine that that's your goal, but it's only.
But it's not part of what they're.
It's a
going for.
rhetorical goal. Yes, and we want all children to have access to unicorn rides. But it doesn't mean I'm not knocking it I'm trying not to knock it in a facetious way. But they're not working on that anymore. And the inadvertent problem here, the inadvertent problem that arises, that when you start negotiating with the Assad regime about its CW problem, you're not talking to them about the larger problem, which admirably keep bringing up, which is, wait, he's murdered 99,000 people without chemical weapons, just with guns and bombs.
Stick with us, Jeffrey.